With that, let's dive right in. So first and foremost, welcome again. We hopefully have a pretty straightforward agenda for our time together. Again, we are here for the first listening session for the work of the Sustainability Advisory Council. Hopefully you're at the right spot. After a short welcome, Missy Nergard will give a brief overview of the Sustainability Advisory Council, and then we will devote really the majority of this time breaking out into small groups to discussion and to get feedback. After that, we'll come together, each group share what was discussed in their small groups, and then talk a little bit of next steps and opportunities to stay informed throughout this project. The other thing I'd like to highlight quickly here at the top, throughout our time together today, if you have detailed materials, proposals, issues that we just don't get to, or that you'd like to share separately, we can always be reached a direct email for the Advisory Council at sac@sustainability.wisc.edu. We will share that again at the end, have it up on the screen, but we just wanted to let you know that's available here at the top as well. Lastly, before I hand it over to Missy, I first want to acknowledge that we are using technology, as we've all been using for quite a long time now, but that means that we are at the whims of that tech at times. So there's always the possibility we'll run into a glitch here or there, so we just ask for a little latitude ahead of time in case that were to happen. In terms of some ground rules, we'd like to hold ourselves accountable to throughout our discussion today. One, we really encourage you to keep your video on throughout the meeting, so far as you're comfortable. Please also keep yourself muted when not talking, so we can cut down on the background noise. Use that chat feature as a great place to share resources, links, and as well as to note technical difficulties. Nathan Yandel from our team will be keeping an eye on that throughout, and we'll jump in to address anyone's concerns as needed. And then finally, like I promised, the raise hand feature. Please use that if you have a comment or question while someone's speaking, and we'll find the right time to bring you into the conversation. But last and maybe most importantly, I want to acknowledge that we have a lot of participants today, which means we probably have a really great range in experiences, whether that's experiences working with, at, or as a student of UW-Madison, working, thinking, researching, addressing issues of sustainability, or just using the technology that we're using today. So we just want to make sure that we all give ourselves some permission to be a little unpolished in this space, especially when we get into those breakout rooms. We would love for you to feel comfortable voicing your thoughts and opinions, even if they're only half thoughts, half opinions, you're still kind of figuring them out. We hope this is a space for you to do that. That also means then that we expect everyone to respect and honor each other's different perspectives and ideas so that we can all hopefully create a comfortable, open, albeit virtual collaboration space. So with that, I think I'm going to hand it off to Missy, who is going to go over the Sustainability Advisory Council.
Thank you, Alex. And Alex is only partially handing it over, so he's at the driver's seat, so I will be dinging him to move us forward. So we are here today because the university has just initiated basically a second round of strategic planning for sustainability. We are going to refer to the 2010 Task Force report, which was the institution's first chance or first undertaking to look at sustainability as a giant initiative for the campus. In respecting that mission and vision for sustainability at the campus, it was thoughtfully crafted in 2010, but we've also recognized that was 10 years ago. There's been an evolution in the concept of what sustainability is in the advancement of our community's priorities. Our most important deliverable to this council is a set of priorities for the institution on the near, mid, and long term. And that time frame is something that's a little bit subjective. Humans operate in different time spans than some of our internal processes, political processes, degree processes. They have shorter time spans. When we're talking about sustainability, we tend to look very, very long term with the understanding that we need to incorporate how humans frame time. So to the next slide, please, Alex. We've set up a really aggressive timeline to look at our campus sustainability strategy. How are we going to prioritize that? So you'll notice on this timeline that we're actually only in week 2 of this process. We are able to kick off the advisory council last week, and that council is made up of students and our senior level executives from across the institution and shared governance. And sorry, I could see the chat. I'm being unpolished for the moment. So what we're hoping to do is set up that set of recommendations, and then the future work of the advisory council will be to build upon that. And what you're really here for, we want to glean your expertise. We want to glean your vision and capture all of that. And in order to do that, one of the things we wanted to help frame and contextualize was what sustainability in a systems approach looks like. So Alex, if you don't mind, I'm going to shut off my video here for a minute, but we'll keep talking. Okay. So in June of 2018, I was at the University of Illinois attending a seminar on emerging contaminants in the water. And I sat with a graduate student from UW-Madison who was there to present her findings on chemicals clinging to microplastics in the water. And then 1 year later, I had actually taken the position here, and I was embarking on the Wisconsin Ideas Seminar with 40 new faculty and administrators. That week began with Bill Quackenbush, the Ho-Chunk tribal historian, walking us out to Picnic Point, having us sit at the fire circle, close our eyes, and envision the lake through Ho-Chunk memories. He described crystal clear waters and white sand, and with our eyes still closed, tribal members drummed and sang a welcome song, and we were told about how the sound of the music and the voices would carry across the water. You could see and hear the tribal neighbors from all around the lake. Bill shared a tribal memory with us that morning, but it is also a vision and a mission, and he delivered it with the clarity that these lakes once had. The history of sustainability at this institution didn't begin with the 2010 Task Force report, with Earth Day in 1970, or even with the founding of the institution in 1848. The history of sustainability here goes back over 10,000 years, and that legacy is something to honor and embrace. We often talk about systems approaches in sustainability, and it's nothing more than a means of describing incredibly complex relationships, removing the artificial linearity that humans often impose on ourselves. I'd like to tell a story of an imaginary yet plausible system. So we're going to go back and start with our microplastics. These particular microplastics are textile fibers from our carpets and clothing dispersed through the air and water through the nastiest of vectors, our laundry appliances. And then our heroes step in. Assistant Professor Wee from engineering is developing ways to use light to remove the contaminants, and Professor Sarmati from Sohi is developing textiles that are less toxic and safer for the environment. Then let's say we partner with Under Armour and bring in our friends at Wharf to patent athletic gear that is non-toxic and doesn't shed fibers. And it's extra slippery so that our wide receivers and our running backs are contributing to clear lakes while adding points to the scoreboard. We then take that textile revolution even further and we use it for our commencement robes. And as you can see, some of our graduating folks and our alumni need a little bit more fabric than others. And then our alumni carry that vision forth and clean other waterways of plastics. And that is an example of a systems approach. It's leveraging our strengths and sharing our Badger spirit. And you are part of the architects of our future. So I really invite you to use our history, our long-held memories, your visions, your goals, your experience to bring clarity and purpose to our mission. We've fallen behind, but we haven't fallen apart. And together our work here will put UW-Madison back to where we belong. Click. So one of the things we do in sustainability, and we just finished last year, we just announced our first ever rating system for higher ed for UW-Madison. And higher ed has a specific set of parameters that is used to guide that kind of review of where we're at. And it looks at 4 particular areas: academics and research, engagement, operations, and planning and administration. So then what we do, because we're humans and we love to compare and compete, we compared what other institutions are doing. And we can see how far Madison is behind, not just our national peers. University of Michigan is routinely kicking our behinds, but our aspirational schools like Stanford, and you can click ahead, Alex. And then we also look globally. What is the rest of the world doing, and how are they doing it better than us? And is there a place for us at the table? So we look at University of Sydney, and one of the things on their front page is that they're tackling wicked problems. That's their premier goal, is to bring all their intellect, all their resources together to solve truly challenging issues. And then we also look at transparency, and that's one of the reasons we're having this today and we're recording everything. When we look at University of Illinois' dashboard, for instance, it is completely and utterly transparent what they are doing and how they are doing it across all of the different areas of higher ed. And that's really what we invite you to do too. Not just to look at what everyone else is doing, but to think innovatively and to take us to the next step. Because if we just do what everyone else is doing, we will be just as good as them. But I still contend that we have everything in this mile-wide corridor to bring it all together and be a true leader in this space. And with that, I will turn it back to Alex and Deb to explain how we're gonna glean all your brain thoughts.
Deb, I think you're muted.
I need that t-shirt. I also need to do this because I need to see that. There we go. I want to introduce myself. I'm Deb Gerke from the Office of Strategic Consulting, and I'm working with the Office of Sustainability to help them facilitate these sorts of events. So now we're going to move to the conversation part of the meeting. We're going to take about 30 minutes to talk about 2 questions. We're going to do this in small groups so more people have an opportunity to participate. The first question, imagine that UW-Madison is doing everything right when it comes to sustainability. Now it's 2035, what is different? We'll take a little time to just think about that individually. You can turn off your cameras at this time if you want to just spend that time feel a little bit more alone. And then when you come back into the larger groups, we'll take about 10 minutes to talk about that. Then we'll move to the second question. In order to achieve the vision we just discussed, what are the most important sustainability priorities for the university to consider? And as we have these conversations, we're going to ask that everybody share. We're going to ask you to monitor your airtime. As Alex mentioned earlier, if you have detailed information or ideas that you want to share with the office, you can email them to them, and he'll say that email again at the end of the meeting. And I'm going to ask that you keep this vision that Missy offered in line. Think about systemic change. Think about how we might do things better. Yes, we always want to do that. And think about how we might do things differently. Again, we're going to ask that you stay out of the weeds because we don't have a lot of time for the weeds. And a reminder that if you have materials, to share them, and be sure to share your airtime. So before we move into small groups, does anybody have any questions? There will also be a facilitator and a note taker in each of the groups. So you'll just be able to have the conversation. Someone else will record it for you. Any questions? Looks like we're good to go then, Alex. Work some Zoom magic.
All right. Give me 30 seconds here and I'll send you all off to the break rooms. Have fun. All right, I think everyone should be back. Deb, if you want to lead us through.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to make it a competition between groups, but I think I had the best group. They were incredible. And I need to put this back so I can see. I can't see my group. There we go. Some of the things that they said that were really important, that the university is working with corporations around regulatory capture and how we change the way we do some things. More streets look like State Street. That's just mass transportation and bikes. We don't have so many cars floating around all over the place. That we think about how we ban smoking and use those same strategies, so that we're using design thinking to create processes and spaces where people are they just have to do the right thing because it was designed that way. While recycling was the example that was used, we could think of lots of other ways that we could take the idea of design thinking to address these issues. So those I think were some of the big things that came out of my group. I think I got them all. Oh, no, I missed one, an important one. Sustainability is tied to ethics, and that we keep that in mind as we're going through this work. So with that, I'll hand it over to Missy. Did you have a group, Missy? I saw some things were moving around there, but I wasn't paying close attention to what they were because I wanted to listen to my group. Okay, no, Nathan.
There you go.
Oh, go ahead. You want to say something, Missy?
Nope.
Oh, okay, Nathan.
All right, well, I would stand behind our group and discussion as well. Say it was superb. We had a really interesting conversation, and I would say covered kind of the gamut of what sustainability entails. So there was emphasis on thinking about the relationships that we use, or the relationships that we foster in order to advance our sustainability priorities, and making sure that we're learning from and speaking with and listening to communities that aren't typically included in these conversations. There were a lot of other points about kind of more specific things around the vision for campus itself, including opening up more green space, reducing further the need for private cars and therefore the need for more salt, really working to bring our stormwater system back to the way it possibly used to be, expanding our access to outdoor space into the shoulder seasons, which I would editorialize may happen anyway with climate change because it's going to get warmer, and also to consider some really important cultural and social dynamics on campus, like making sure we prioritize wellness, local food, and then there was also a point above about the kind of hierarchical culture on campus and trying to break down that hierarchy a bit. So in terms of how this would sort of apply to the priorities that the SAC is going to be considering, actually the conversation trended towards setting priorities is potentially problematic, that you're kind of concretizing a moving object, you're maybe reducing too far what is a very complex system. And so there was some, I think, really important pushback about the extent to which this becomes a series of boxes that we're looking to check, as opposed to a larger institutional, potentially even ideological kind of reappraisal of how the UW approaches these questions.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. Josh, you're up.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Josh Arnold with the Office of Sustainability. First thing I'd like to do is thank the folks in my group, Maggie, Brittany, Donovan, and Mark, for really just diving right in and doing a great job. A lot of what we talked about has been shared so far in the group, so I'd like to just point out a couple of really interesting ideas that we shared. One thing is really thinking about how decentralized our campus is, and looking for opportunities to raise awareness within campus about all of the incredible things that are happening. And as part of that opportunity to raise awareness, looking into opportunities to really incorporate sustainability as part of the core mission of the university, possibly even at a centralized school or center or institute. Another observation from our group had to do with the amount of stuff that we use once and then throw away. And looking for intentional opportunities throughout the whole product life cycle to think about how we procure things, how we use them, and then even if we're done using it, maybe there's someone or another group that might be able to use it again, and creating some spaces where, you know, if you've got something, you can just sort of put it out there, and somebody else might be able to use it. So, so some great ideas there. Also, of course, the idea of incorporating some aggressive opportunities to increase the amount of renewable energy that we have on campus, whether that's through actual facilities on campus, or possibly even looking outside of campus also, and in coordinating with MG&E, because UW-Madison is MG&E's single biggest customer. So again, I'd like to thank my group very much for their participation so far, and hand it off to Tracy.
Thanks. Yeah, we had some really great conversations as well. The 30 minutes flew by, so that was really great. A couple of the things that several people brought up and that we thought were really important was when we're trying to solve these problems, to really acknowledge and learn from existing knowledge that exists, whether that's the people that lived here before us, other cultures, and we're going to have to go about that in a different way. You know, maybe that information isn't in articles that are published in the same way that a lot of the things that we refer to are, but we really need to kind of step outside of our cultural norms and kind of make sure that we use all of the knowledge that exists, whatever that might look like. Another thing that we talked about was kind of creating this cultural this culture on campus of expectation. So, you know, if we have events, not that there's an option to make these things sustainable, but that's the expectation. And again, kind of going off of what Josh's group talked about, we talked a lot about all of the unnecessary waste that is produced. And so is there a way that we can kind of refuse this before we turn to reduce or to reuse? And kind of just changing the culture on those things. So again, that it's more of an expectation. It's just what we do at UW. It's part of being a Badger versus then, you know, this is a sustainable option. So, yep, thanks.
Thanks, Tracy. Jake?
Great, thanks, Deb. And thanks to my group for a really great conversation. One idea that I wanted to chat about that I don't know we have touched in other groups, we talked about learning requirements for our incoming and outgoing students. Similar to, you know, alcohol and sexual assault in our Wisconsin training that new students receive upon entry, my group would really love to see some sort of sustainability learning incorporated in part of that onboarding process as a student. And then at the end of our time here as a student as well, really focus on incorporating some sustainability learning outcomes for all graduating Badgers, so that when we do go out in the community beyond the borders of campus, we're spreading that message. We're practicing the Wisconsin idea at its finest. Another really innovative idea that my group touched on was looking at our campus community as a whole and art influence beyond the borders of campus. So not only focusing on what we're doing on campus, but our spaces as students, staff, and faculty outside of campus at home. How are we taking what we are learning on campus and our practices on campus, and how are we stretching that to the greater Madison and Wisconsin community? We of course touched on topics such as reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and our support for those via our investment and potentially divesting from fossil fuels. And also touched on our campus planning. How are we incorporating more green infrastructure in our planning? How are we learning those? How are we using those as learning opportunities for our students?
Thanks, Jake. Audrey?
Great, thanks. Our group discussion was wonderful, and I really appreciate everyone's ideas and input. We talked a lot about what the future vision could look like, including sourcing our local food from around the area and looking to alternative energy, including renewables like solar, and making sure we really capture the different perspectives that everyone brings to campus and connecting to culture to ensure that sustainability can be supported long-term. And then for the priorities, we really looked at what was achievable, again, coming back to the food and energy ideas, and then thinking about education and how we can also evaluate sustainability on campus.
Thanks, Audrey. Sounds like there were lots of really interesting conversations. With that, I'm going to turn it back up to Alex because we're out of time.
We are. So thank you to everyone. I know we're a little bit past 1 o'clock. I will keep this very brief, but if you have to drop, please feel free. I think first and foremost, if you take nothing else away, thank you so much. We understand that it takes a lot to commit an hour out of your busy time, to agree to an hour more of screen time, to agree to an hour of mental energy of being present in this space. So really thank you for that. Your input is truly invaluable. As Missy said, we were very much at the beginning of our work here for the council. So I heard a lot of discussion around the actual work the council should be doing, as well as specific opportunities that the council should be considering, which is perfect because we're still at that stage of defining exactly how the council is going to work and all the different opportunities and priorities to consider. So we will take all this information and make sure the council has it and uses it. In terms of next steps for participants here, you can stay up to date on progress of the council by going to our website. We will be posting meeting agendas, meeting summaries, as well as recordings for the meeting. We actually have the recordings of the kickoff meeting, which happened last week, up right now. That includes kind of introductory speeches from Lieutenant Governor Malandela Barnes, the Provost, and the Vice Chancellor. So if you're interested, you can check that out. Or you can stay up to date by following our office on social media at SustainUW or signing up for our newsletter. In the short term, we've got a couple more listening sessions. So if this was so fun and you want to do it again, or if you have colleagues or friends that you think should be involved, we have one scheduled for tomorrow evening that's set aside specifically for students, and then one next week in the evening as well. The other thing, which is not on the slide, because we're going to get it posted hopefully tomorrow, we will create a survey for people who aren't available during these times if they want to provide similar feedback, or if you have other ideas or feedback you want to provide, that would be another venue by which you could do it. And as I promised, at the bottom of this is that email, sac@sustainability.wisc.edu. So if you have particular questions, items, concerns, please feel free to reach out to that email at any time. I saw it in the chat, one of the questions. We will make these slides available. We get them posted up onto our website. With that, I went quickly because we are 3 minutes over. So thank you again. We really appreciate you taking the time today. And please use any of these channels to reach out if you have any further questions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.